We're going to examine the price of the 101 in 2022 rookie drafts. Ryan, you made a call to the DLF army, I guess, asking if anybody's dealing these picks. And you got a few responses.
Got a ton of responses. The 101 is being traded quite a bit, it seems like. Reached out on Twitter and just asked people if they're trading this pick or if they're trading for this pick. I think the general perception right now is this is not the year that you want to have the 101 in rookie drafts. That was mentioned in a lot of the responses I saw. And I get that. I mean, right now there's not a clear-cut 101 rookie pick. Whether you're talking about one quarterback leagues or Superflex leagues, there's lots of options, right? It could be Breece Hall, it could be Isaiah Spiller, it could be a couple of those wide receivers like Treylon Burks or Garrett Wilson. If you're talking Superflex league, there's at least 3 quarterbacks that could end up as the QB1 in both the NFL draft and in dynasty rookie draft. So I think that uncertainty has led to a drop in value. That's at least the perception. But then when you look at these trades, even up 101 for DeAndre Swift, who we know is a first-round dynasty startup pick. 101 for Javonte Williams, who is a first-round dynasty startup pick. Even up for A.J. Brown, same thing. So these are top 12 overall players being acquired for a rookie pick that we're not even sure who it might be. And those are just 3 of the trades that we got back in this question. And most of the others were less than that. I saw a lot of people downgrading, moving down from 101 to the middle of the first and getting a future first, or moving down for 2 later first in this class. But those 3 trades certainly stood out, that people were able to pull that even in this what's viewed as a down year.
Most likely that's all because of, draft season and getting the fever, Matt, and wanting to be a part of the top of a draft class. So outside of those top end drafts, what's your feeling on the 101 in rookie drafts? I know you just got into scouting these guys, but you have to have a feel for how you're gonna move forward and get into draft season. What is it for you?
Yeah, like Ryan said, I understand the sentiment to get out of the 101. And I think one trade on here was 101 and OBJ for the 102 and 103. I think I like that one. And obviously, I'd rather have A.J. Brown and Swift and these other guys that you talked about. But the way I approached this question was to kind of go back at the last couple of drafts and look at where the top player was going in August startup drafts. After we've had the rookie drafts, the NFL draft, your rookie draft, and are really heading into the season, I think that's where we really start to see the true value of how the community is valuing these top rookies. So in the last 2 classes, we had pretty good feelings about those classes in general. So I'm not sure how relevant those are if you want to say that this class doesn't have those players, but just for fun, last August we had Najee Harris as the first running back taken at 10th overall, running back 6, and Jamar Chase as 24th overall, wide receiver 10. In 2020, Clyde Edwards-Helaire 5th overall, RB5. Whoops. CeeDee Lamb 44th overall, wide receiver 20. So I think in general we can say that the first couple of players that go off the board, and in startup drafts where you're including draft picks, those typically come off the board, I think, somewhere in the second round. Some years it's the early part of the second round, some years it's later, sometimes it's the early third round, depending on the class. So that was kind of the picture in 2019. If you remember that class, that's another class where we weren't really sure what was going on at the top. We had players like N'Keal Harry. We had players like Josh Jacobs. Those were really the first 2 running back and wide receivers to go off in August 2019 startups. Jacobs was the 32nd overall pick, running back 14. Harry was 62 overall, wide receiver 29. So he lost quite a bit of value after that first rookie drafts that happened, in April and a little bit before that. So, if we were to look at, and this is obviously not an apples to apples comparison because we don't look at trade value by strictly ADP alone. But if we go back and to our current startup ADP in January, if you go down and want to compare it to the 2019 class, you go down to the 32nd overall player. We're looking at players like Devontae Smith, Cam Akers, Terry McLaurin, Elijah Mitchell, Derrick Henry down at 35. And, I don't necessarily think I would trade the 101, or excuse me, trade any of these players for the 101 straight up. Like, these are still players that I want to build around. They're players that we know that are good. I don't know. I think the 101 is decreased in value this year, but if you have it, unless you can get one of those sweetheart deals like Ryan mentioned earlier, like, I think the move is to hold right now.
Well, you mentioned that usually that 101 ends up in the second round, right?
Yeah, and if we're talking about players in that range, we're talking about, the Stephon Diggs, T. Higgins, Nick Chubb, J.K. Dobbins of the world. And in that case, I absolutely want the player over the 101, at least right now.
I think that's the takeaway, is that to go look at that range of player between 15 and 25 and try to find a target inside of there if you're not convinced you're going to be in love with using that first pick in the draft. And then just work your way out from there and find that line. I'm not sure where that is. It's there's certainly a handful of names. You mentioned a couple of them. Jalen Waddle's in there, Deebo Samuel's in there. If you could get one of those guys, even T. Higgins. I know one of those responses you got, Ryan, had T. Higgins and a mid-second. That seems like a fair offer. Seems like something that could be accepted. I don't have a problem with those kind of deals if you're not in love with this class.
I think the move, and I certainly recognize this is easier said than done, but I think the ultimate move right now is to buy the 101, or really, I mean, when we're having a 101 conversation, we're really talking about the top 2-3 picks, because as we said, we're not even sure who the 101 is. So, but to buy those top 2 or 3 picks right now and sell them later, because whether it's rookie fever, whether it's a player establishing himself as the clear top guy, or two players kind of creating a tier of their own eventually, we think these picks are going to gain value. I do think they will settle in that range where Matt was talking about, the Swift and the Williams and the Brown and the Pitts deal. I think those are mostly outliers. There was also a trade of 1.06 and Leonard Fournette for the 101. So if you can buy for that right now and then sell in April or May or June, I think that's the way to go.